Once upon a time, or maybe twice, there was an unearthly paradise called Pepperland.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, where we watch every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order that's released to theaters. Did I say all the information?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
You did. You got it all.
All right, cool. Today we're experiencing a very special episode here, man. It's
Very
full of
psychedelic.
It's full of love and drugs and maybe some more love.
But mostly drugs.
Lots of music and more drugs. Because we're experiencing the Beatles movie, which is more commonly known as The Yellow Submarine,
Yes.
1968.
Jokes aside, I want to talk about this movie seriously.
Okay. Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, because, I mean, we could sit here and duff around and talk about
The whole drug use,
thing.
hippies, lol, except, like, that doesn't really add to anything.
No, I really don't understand the whole psychedelic movement. Like, as a thing. I mean, I kind of understand it from a cultural perspective because, you know, you came from, like, the very conservative 50s and then into the 60s where there was, like, a breakout of that. Mm-hmm. And so it was, like... It was like a very...
most opposite we can do?
Yeah, it was like a very stereotypical, like, teenage rebellion, want to find the edgiest... Or for the time, what's, like, the quote-unquote edgiest thing. But I always find that these, like...
Doing lots of drugs, living in a commune.
Wait. That these famous, like, drug trip movies that people always go on and on about, I'm always like, you know, that's not really that crazy.
No.
It's like the same conversation we had with Alice in Wonderland. It's like, this isn't that crazy.
I'm trying to figure out why we don't ever find any of this stuff weird.
I think because we're desensitized to it and we've seen crazier.
Yeah.
Like, because these are the famous examples that, like, everybody talks about, and so we've seen stuff based on these things that have taken this idea way further. Mm-hmm. And so to see
we've grown up
the
in the
vanilla
age
roots
of
this, we're just like, yeah, whatever, this is not that crazy.
We've grown up in the age of internet where literally anyone that can use Flash can do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. And throw it up on the internet and other people see it. So, like, these very cultured, very specifically made movies by companies aren't...
That still have a ton of mass appeal.
Yeah, it's like they're not weird or, like, edgy at all.
No.
It's like, oh, this is like...
No, if anything,
this
they're
is kind of boring.
They're trying, like, it almost feels like they're trying too hard and still just being boring. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of us being desensitized to it.
It's the kind of thing where Rankin Bass is more shocking and appalling than these movies will ever be. And that's just because Rankin Bass doesn't care.
Yeah.
And they'll just do whatever they want. Whereas this movie is like, no, we have a very specific thing. We're going to try to be edge, and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. I also, before we get too far into the movie, want to lay my cards down on the table and admit that neither of us know, like, anything about the Beatles.
Oh, yeah. I know they're a band of four guys that look pretty much the same. They're very generic looking, honestly.
They've got some cool music. I definitely have not heard all of it. Like, I know some Beatles songs, especially now after watching the movie. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Beatles song.
Like, before we went into this movie, it's like I knew The Yellow Submarine, the song, Hey Jude, because I played it in band in high school, and
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, because it's like, that was an example song played to us in my history class when we were talking about the psychedelic age.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like those are, I mean, if you played me other songs and told me, hey, this is by the Beatles, I'd be like, oh, okay. But I'm like really bad at associating bands with songs, especially from that age.
Well, I think I'd be a little better off than you are. I think if you were like playing a playlist of music of that era and a Beatles song came on, without anyone having to prompt me, I would probably be like, oh, is that a Beatles song? And then you'd be like, yeah, stupid, that's a Beatles song. And I'd be like, okay, I thought so.
But just like off the top of my head, it's like, those are the only ones that I can immediately point out. So obviously this, and also, we don't do drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, at all. We don't even drink alcohol that often, as in 0 times.
Yeah, what do you mean that often? I think I'm the only person who has drank alcohol out of the two of us.
No, I have.
Oh, okay.
I drank champagne. It was awful.
Yeah, you kind of had a similar experience where it's like, once as a kid, someone let you try, like, champagne.
Yeah, it was Christmas Day. I was in Spain. And we were at my sister's host family because she was studying abroad in college, and my family went to visit her. Her host family is like getting out champagne and everything, and he's like, hey, he's 16, he can try some. And I'm like, this tastes like awful.
Tastes like bad fruit juice.
No.
I mean, I don't know what champagne tastes like.
There was zero fruit flavor to it at all. Honestly, it tasted like really sour carbonated water.
Ugh.
It was, no, not sour, bitter.
Ugh.
Like bitter carbonated water. I was like, this is pretty terrible. And before you say anything, I know champagne is nothing like a lot of alcohol. But even still, we don't have any interest in it.
Right. To
So,
tell my own story, I was probably like 14 or 15, and I had a really bad sore throat, like strep throat or something. And so my sister gave me a shot of whiskey, and she says, here, this will help your sore throat. And so I'm like, all right. And so I took it. And yeah, it helped my sore throat, but it also tasted like liquid piss fire. And I'm like, yeah, I already had a feeling that alcohol wouldn't interest me because I like things that taste nice. But that just kind of cemented it. So
I really enjoy mouthfeel. And liquids don't do that often for me. I really enjoy sweet things as well.
Yeah.
So if I were going to enjoy any alcohol, it'd most likely be wine. But even then, I'm still...
Well,
another thing is,
that's why
I like having my cognitive receptacle functioning at maximum abilities at all times. So the idea of getting drunk just
or even
to
just
not
getting buzzed
or drunk just to not feel things is not a concept that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to lose myself. I'd rather like to think about things.
That being said, we have no problems hanging around people who are buzzed or
Oh, no,
do
absolutely
drink.
not.
Yeah.
If other people want to do that, go right ahead. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But anyways, so like, we don't even drink alcohol. We obviously don't do drugs. I couldn't even tell you how to do a drug.
Yeah, just the other day I accidentally made a drug reference. And Sean's like, don't
You don't
realize what you're doing. And I'm like, huh?
She's like, we're going to the store, and she's like, time to go get some edibles. And I'm like, no. No.
Don't say that out loud.
Don't say that. Because
like,
I know
why?
because that's a marijuana reference. Because you can have like edible brownies or something.
And I had no idea. I was just making a funny.
I
was just saying a stupid.
I watched like the first 5 or 6 seasons of Breaking Bad, and like that's my experience with drugs, and that's a horrible experience with drugs. So that's like all I know. So this movie has like no appeal to us.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk about the movie. Because I don't even know if we've been showing clips of it. Maybe. I doubt we've been giving you audio, though, because like the whole movie is just a series of music videos of Beatles music.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to show any clips of this at all.
Like, we might be showing stills, but not. Who knows?
Ooh.
Who knows what we'll be able to show you?
Yeah. So I guess it's probably clear at this point that like this movie doesn't appeal to Sean and I at all, like in any way.
No.
But that doesn't mean that I can't appreciate some things that it does right.
No, I thought this movie was vaguely enjoyable. The music was fine. The music videos that went, like the music video segments that went with them, worked perfectly fine. But to me, it was just a series of
Loosely connected events.
loosely connected music videos that I was not particularly attached to at all. The actual plot of the movie wasn't super interesting to me. Mm-hmm. It just kind of existed. The art style was very on point at all times.
That's the one thing I wanted to say. The art direction's very well done.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I can easily say that this is one of the best looking movies and best probably produced movies that we've seen in this decade.
Mm-hmm.
Like, easily.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this comes close to being on par, quality-wise, with the Disney movies that have come out.
I mean,
And depending on your personal preferences,
it could
is
be better. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like this movie, I think, is arguably better than one or two of the Disney movies that we've seen this decade, just because the art direction overall is a lot more consistent than, like, I don't know, The Sword and the Stone.
Yeah. But, you know, if I had to put my own personal preference down, I'd rather watch Sword in the Stone.
I don't know if I'd watch either of these again.
Well, yeah, but if you had to, which one would you want to watch?
Oh, I don't know. This one I could take a nap to.
I guess. But I'm talking about actually being cognitive and watching it again, Sean.
I don't know. It's never going to happen, so I'm not going to make a decision.
All right. Also, the use of limited animation in this film is super impressive.
Oh, yeah,
This
they do
is finally...
a very excellent job.
Yeah, it's super impressive because it's finally bridged that gap between the sheer pennies that were put into things like Mr. Magoo and Yogi Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
From the cheapness looks lazy to the cheapness looks good.
yeah. Yeah, like this is limited animation that still looks good. It doesn't look perfect. There's definitely some specific like times where you're just kind of like, ooh, that was a little off. Like,
Yeah.
I bet if they would have redrawn that frame here or there, this would have looked great. But it's super impressive and definitely probably helped keep the budget of the film down while keeping the like artistic integrity of the film up.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I want to say is like every music video segment looks has a very different feel and design to it. So like multiple times throughout this, there's like segments where it's pretty much like heavy rotoscope with flashing images, which isn't great.
Yeah.
There's a couple of segments here that's just like flashing, like strobing, like quite literal strobing lights.
And that's where I've got a problem with the art direction.
Yeah.
But, like, it's also obviously what it's going for. I just don't think it's very appealing or easy to look at.
I think, like, the second actual song in the movie, after the Yellow Submarine opening credits, where it's just flying through, like, literal London, but, like, it looks like it's just black and white cutouts that they've just pasted all over the place. I felt like that was one of the stronger elements of this whole movie because it's so artistically different from the rest of the movie.
That stands out.
Yeah, it stands out to me, and the song was pretty enjoyable, but I forget what it is now because there was like 7 to 10 more songs after that one.
Right.
So I don't even remember what that one was. But I remember when we were first watching it, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I don't know. This movie didn't do a whole lot for me.
Plot?
Yeah, go ahead.
Real easy. Purple Land?
Pepperland.
Pepperland?
Yeah.
I thought it was Purple Land.
Pepperland.
Was being attacked by the blue meanies. And they don't like happiness or anything.
Love.
So, so they attack everything, turn everybody gray, and take away all their happiness and love.
Mostly by freezing people.
Yeah. And one guy gets...
There's this neat character design with a hand that, like, goes after people.
Oh, this thing's terrifying.
I really like...
I think its name is Glove.
Yeah, Glove. Really cool character design with, like, the thumbnail being the...
eyeball?
The eyeball of it, and, like, the way the fingers are placed makes it look like it's grinning, and then the fingers pointing out like a nose. Pretty cool design.
Yeah. It's terrifying. I hate it.
Anyway.
Either way, one guy gets away. He jumps inside the yellow submarine, goes to real Britain, collects the 4 Beatles, and they're like, yeah, cool, dude, bro, mate, let's do it. Like we'll go save the day. And then they
The reason he needs the Beatles is because they need to play music to get rid of the blue meanies.
Yeah, because awesome music is the only way to get rid of them. All right. And then they spend like an hour of the movie getting back.
Yeah.
Doing various songs and random hijinks ensue. And then they finally get back, and then like they sing like 5 songs as they're battling the meanies in various ways.
All you need is love.
It's like the ultimate song that beats them in the end.
Yeah.
And then the movie's over, and we get a brief like showing of the real Beatles on a black screen wearing brown shirts so they blend into the background, and they all have dark hair, and I can't tell any of these guys apart. If you asked me to name them, I'd have no clue which one was which.
No.
Like, the distinguishing features is that one's got a mustache and that one's got glasses.
Okay, so originally the background was also supposed to be like animated psychedelic while they were on top.
Okay.
But they ran out of budget.
That doesn't surprise me.
So they left it black.
That's a bad choice.
That was a pretty bad choice. They should have just put like a bright neon green behind them or something. I don't know.
Anything.
Yeah.
Other than like, hey, how'd you enjoy the movie? And like standing
Also,
in a dark
this
hallway.
is like so pandery. But I mean, I guess that's kind of what you're here for. If
It's
that's
like,
what you were gonna come.
You're here to the movie to enjoy Beatles stuff. So.
Yeah. And considering that they don't voice themselves.
No, apparently they had different voice actors.
And one of those voice actors who played George?
Ringo?
I don't know.
One of the others? I don't know. One of them got arrested halfway through, so they had to get another voice actor.
Well, wait. No, I think it's the guy who plays George. His voice actor got arrested.
Okay.
For ditching the British Navy.
Of course.
And so the guy who plays Ringo also took over for playing George.
I mean, I couldn't tell these guys' voices apart anyways, and that obviously just makes it worse. Also, the audio balancing in this movie is pretty bad. Where the music is stellar and very loud and in your face.
Right,
but then
obviously the most care is put into the music.
But then, like, when people are talking, they're just like, hey, man, how's it going? Yeah, that's good. And let's sing a song!
Yeah.
You're like, oh, God.
Yeah.
So...
The Beatles have, or quote-unquote, the Beatles, have some funny lines in this movie. Like, they have some funny quips, but they're all said so quietly and so quickly and so deadpan that you barely have time to register what the joke was before they're already talking about something else.
It's like, I'm okay with the quickness and the deadpan. I just wish it was a bit louder
So I could hear it.
And it's like, it doesn't even need that, like, they need to have had said it louder. It's just the audio balancing needed that part louder compared to the music. Because if you have it loud enough to hear what they're saying well, the music is going to destroy your ears when it comes in.
Right. Well, and there's so many obviously in jokes with the Beatles going on.
Oh, yeah.
And I have no idea what they're talking about.
So I didn't get any of those.
Yeah, yet again, not a film made for us, but that's okay.
That's not what we're here for, dang it. We're here to watch all the movies, whether we get them or not.
Yeah.
And give our random opinions on them.
Yep.
And try to fill in some history points on it as well.
Speaking of history, so this is a landmark film for the animation industry. And this is the part that I spent the most time researching instead of spending my time trying to understand the phenomenon that is the Beatles.
That's probably smart.
Yeah, because, like, I don't understand. I'm not a music person. I would have to go into, like, a whole degree's worth of research to start dissecting Beatles.
It's like, I enjoy music, but I, like, don't obsess over it. So,
Right.
like, I couldn't even tell you
But I do obsess over animation history.
Yes.
So, this is the part I had to dive into. And I found some really great stuff in my book of written by Leonard Maltin of Mice and Magic about this, and then some other sources online about it. And essentially, you can kind of thank this movie for what we are going to be experiencing for the next, like,
10 years?
decade and a half.
The 70s?
Yeah, because this film brought in...
At least for American animation, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea about the
Right.
non-American animation.
Well, animation industry can kind of be broken up into the East and the West until you get to about the 2000s. And that's when they kind of start to communicate with each other and affect each other more.
Okay.
Like, they kind of both have the first starting off point, and they intermingle a bit, but they have their own things that are going on that define them
Yes.
up until
That point.
the early 2000s. So, yeah, when I'm talking about the animation industry and I'm talking about a movie from the West, I'm talking about Western animation industry. If we're talking about the East, like a movie from the East, and I'm talking about the animation industry, I'm talking about the Eastern animation industry.
Okay.
So, with this film, it brought in not just families, it brought in everybody. Young, old, and it was a huge box office success that animation hadn't seen in a long time.
This was a hinting at, hey, wait, we can make movies for nut children.
Exactly. That, you hit the nail on the head. We suddenly have now a whole bunch of artists that are getting very excited that they can potentially find this market of adults who would also be interested in seeing animated films. And I hate to break it to them, 50 years too late. 60 years too late. But that didn't really happen. But they try for the next...
They try hard.
For the next decade or so to get that audience. And it just... and it's not that audience doesn't exist. We see that audience today. The problem is marketability.
It's like that audience is not large enough to get your budget back when you make this movie.
Well, the problem is in the future, we're going to have, like, the Ralph Bakshi films, which actually do have quite a bit of commercial success, at least to begin with.
Okay.
And they're, like, they have enough marketability, like they get their product out there. The problem then is when we get films like Watership Down, Plague Dogs, movies that just, like, sure, there's an audience out there for it, but the audience doesn't know that the film's being made.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem.
Because it's not something that they're tuned into trying to pay attention to.
Well, they don't have the money to get the message out there that the film's being made. It's not like today where you have the internet where people who are interested in this kind of thing can just look it up and share it with other people.
Right. We're still back in pre-internet. People use, like, the postal service.
Yeah.
And telephone calls.
Right.
Ooh.
Ew.
Oh, jeez. Instant information traveling is not a thing.
But
that is so...
it wasn't just...
Sometimes you just gotta stop and think about that. The most instantaneous information that you get across is television right now. Wow.
Like a national broadcast.
Yeah. And that's only, like...
for emergencies.
Emergencies and, like, government-based things. Not, everyone, good news, there's this cool new movie coming out for all the edgelords out there.
Oh, could you imagine TV back then working like a Twitter feed? Anyway. So Yellow Submarine wasn't the only reason people started thinking about this. It was also because after Yellow Submarine was such a huge success, Disney re-released Fantasia.
Yes! Here it is!
Uh-huh.
Here it is!
Yeah, Disney, and the funny thing is Disney had actually re-released Fantasia earlier in the 60s.
Okay.
And, you know, it was like, yeah, whatever. But the psychedelic age, like, movement didn't really hit until, like, 65.
So after this movie came out, they're like, let's try this again.
Yeah, so then after Yellow Submarine came out, they put out Fantasia again, and Alice in Wonderland became one of the most highly requested, like,
re-releases?
Film copies to get passed around to universities and colleges.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
And then it eventually got a re-release, I think, in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was also, like it was simultaneously, like Yellow Submarine kicked it off. And then the re-release of Fantasia, and everybody talking about, like, the underground hit masterpiece that is Alice in Wonderland.
Cough.
That kind of spurred on, like, just a lot of talk about, like, animation being something that can be made for adults as well as kids.
You could do, like, anything, man.
Anything
you want.
Yeah, well, and a lot of Disney animators around that time also went to universities to do, like, talks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they were constantly being asked, what drugs were you on, man, when you made Fantasia?
Like, none.
And all the Disney animators are like, I mean, some of us might have been on drugs, but, like, no.
It's such a dumb trope.
I know.
To expect creators to be on drugs, to be able to imagine something crazy. It's like, no, some of us just really enjoy weird shit. Okay? Some of us can think of weird crap without the influence of drugs, you know? Mm-hmm. It's not that hard. It's not. For some people, yes, it is. Yeah, but those people aren't creators. But those people aren't creators. Well, and,
Like, okay, I've listened to the ramblings of people on drugs. If they're not creative when they're not on drugs, they're really not that creative when they're on drugs either.
Yeah. So it's like, if people are doing drugs, they're creative when they're not on drugs anyways. So the drugs are just kind of a thing they do for fun. Mm-hmm. And it's not to enhance their...
Open their third eye.
Or anything like that.
Right.
No, you open the third eye of a non-creative person and they're like, oh man, you could build like a 2-story house. Whoa.
You're like, yeah, Steve, we do.
We live in one.
Yeah.
We're on the 2nd story.
And I'll be like,
how did this turn into
All
us
right.
making fun of normal people?
go to bed, Steve.
Oh.
So anyway, that's Yellow Submarine. Do we have anything else more to add to this?
No. I mean, if you like the Beatles, check it out.
Oh, one last thing I do want to point out in
Okay.
this. Beatles are assholes in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, more than I was expecting.
Oh, he's ugly. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
There's not any real commentary I have on this. I think it's more funny than anything, because I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
But it's just like, they sing a song about
A guy
a
that's-
little friend they just made, and about how he's such a nowhere man,
And he's living in
and
his
like
nowhere land.
how pointless his life is. And then they finish singing the song, and they're like, oh, he's sad. I wonder why.
Yeah. I wonder why.
I wonder why!
You jerks. Maybe just sing a song about how he's pointless.
How about how his life is pointless and meaningless? Okay. So anyway, next time on Animation Pilgrimage, we are jumping back over to the East in Toy Animation Studios as they make Horus, Prince of the Sun.
Yeah, it also has like a couple of different names.
Yeah.
Something about Celtic prince.
Yeah, but you know
Norse prince, maybe? I don't know.
what? That's
Horus.
Horus, Prince of the Sun was the name that was on the DVD that we got in the mail.
So that's what we're gonna call it.
Yep.
So join us back here for that.
See you next time.